All right, Rip City Drive, what's going on, my friends? Live from Spirit Mountain Casino today, getting ready for Thursday Night Lights. Always a big occasion in the month of September. You know, basically just being Bob Barker, giving away some cash, some NFL helmets and jerseys, and hanging out, watching some ball. So I appreciate your time. Great to be with you as we get ready to launch into a brand new, beautiful football weekend. We got Thursday Night Football Prime tonight with the Cardinals and Seahawks from Arizona. And that's going to be a good game. And then we are going to kick into some big-time college football games starting tomorrow with Florida State of Virginia and also Arizona State hosting TCU. So a big ACC and Big 12 matchup tomorrow. And then we get into the weekend where there's so many great games, and we're going to talk about a lot of that today. But if you want to reach out to me, you can do so, 503-248-0620. I'll have Thomas Rhett tickets to give away coming up at 4, 2 big packs. He's going to be at the amphitheater coming up on Friday up in Ridgefield. So your chance to get some music. Thomas Rhett coming up at 4 o'clock. Also on the show, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. He's going to come up here in about 15 to 20 minutes, and we're going to talk ball with Bino. We'll talk about all the big games coming up this weekend. Sean Hyken from Rose Garden Report will join us, our Trailblazer insider, and we'll get his takes as we come up on Trailblazer Media Day, which is going to be on Monday as we get ready for a brand new basketball season. And then we're going to preview the Ryder Cup. Go USA! USA! PGA David Coleman going to join the show at 5:20. We'll talk a lot of football, so you know how to do it. You can always follow along, listen live, and podcast the show on our free iHeartRadio app. And you can join us on YouTube at any time. Just go to youtube.com and pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620, and be sure to like and subscribe to the page. So there you have it. Brian Noe in 15 minutes. 2 pairs of tickets for Thomas Rhett coming up at 4 o'clock. Now, with the game tonight, and I love the way the Seahawks have played early in the season. You know, big win at Pittsburgh, crushed the Saints, very easily could have beaten the 49ers. I've been impressed with what I've seen so far from Coach McDonald's group. But tonight is a difficult spot for Seattle. They're coming off a big win at home, and now they got to travel on a short week to take on a team who's coming off a rough loss at San Francisco. They should have won the game. They didn't win the game, and now they have a chance to, bounce back at home. I like the Cardinals tonight in a close game. You know, this what we've learned in Thursday Night Football this year and on most years is that, these short weeks, it favors the home team significantly because there's less time to prepare. You're playing at home. You don't have to travel. Seattle's got to give up some preparation time to travel down to Arizona. So this is going to be a big opportunity for the Cardinals to bounce back. I think they win a narrow game tonight against the Seahawks. I did go to a Seahawks-Cardinal game one time down at State Farm Stadium back in 2016. The game ended in overtime in a 6-6 tie. It's one of the worst football games I've attended in my life. My buddy and I were just, Steve, we were just hoping it ended in a 0-0 tie, but there were a few field goals made, but that was brutal. But I think this game will be okay. But regardless of result, the Seahawks are going to be just fine. They're in a good position, playing good football, and I really like their young roster, and I like the way the defense is played. And the best part about that game against New Orleans, it's not a surprise they won, but, they were coming off that big road win at Pittsburgh. It'd be very easy to let up and not approach the game with the right mindset, especially when you got a short week coming up against Arizona, but they went out and just manhandled the Saints. They got up big early, and you could tell the Saints just shut it down. The Seahawks kind of imposed their will, and I just thought that was a great effort. Loved the way they played, loved the way they got after it. It was a very good effort from the Seahawks. So we'll see how things shake out tonight. Now, with college football, I'll say it again, and I mentioned it yesterday. I'll tell you exactly what I think is going to happen with Oregon and Penn State. I like Oregon. I think they're going to win the game. I think they're getting a lot of value, plus 3.5. Penn State doesn't win big spots like this, not with James Franklin. And I respect him a great deal. And they've got a lot of talent. A deep backfield, great offensive line, and experience at quarterback, but they're not dynamic. And I think the Ducks are with Dante Moore. I think this is a game, a spot where that initial year at UCLA with playing time, this is where that's going to pay off for Dante Moore, who's taken over for the Ducks now, is where he's not. This is his first year with Oregon to be the full-fledged starter, but he's not walking around with inexperience. And I think he's going to have a comfort level out there because of what he's gone through. But this is how I see the game playing out. I think the Ducks will struggle to find their footing over the first probably 6 to 8 minutes of the game. I think they'll weather the storm. You got to avoid the big mistakes so you don't give Penn State a short field early because there's going to be a lot of emotion. Put your quarterback more in a position to make some easy completions early in the game. And then I think what's going to happen is that once they get into halftime and into the third quarter, the game's going to be close, and Penn State will start to feel the pressure because it's all on them. But the key matchup, I mean, I don't know how you see it, but for me, it's pretty simple. The Ducks' front seven, their defensive line in particular, their defensive tackles, controlling the run and making sure that they do not allow Penn State to win first and second down. And when they do that, they're going to put Drew Aller in third down and long situations. And I just don't think the Nittany Lions are good enough to move the chains with regularity on third and long. And that's how the Ducks are going to win it. I also think Oregon's got better team speed. But what I love most about their offense right now, obviously the play of Moore has been great with his dynamic playmaking ability and the way he stretches the field. But the best thing for me has been the run-pass balance. They've got the pop in the run game back, unlike last year. And they're running the football with authority. And when you can do it that way and play it that way, it's going to take pressure off your young quarterback. It's a big-time game. It's an awesome game, and I can't wait to watch it. 4:30 kickoff on NBC, but I love Oregon in this spot. I'll ask Bino about it as well. I think it's going to be a terrific football game. Other games I'm going to be keeping an eye on, USC at Illinois. I want to see if the Trojans are for real. Traveling East Coast, laying 7 points on the road, having to play a 9 a.m. kickoff against a team that just got manhandled by Indiana. How does USC respond? Are they a tougher team now? Are they a more physical team? And we're going to find out. It's got the smell of an upset. That's what it feels like. I also think Florida State could be in trouble at Virginia. A little sandwich spot, a trap game because they got Miami coming up the following week. Other games, obviously Alabama and Georgia. Can Kalen DeBoer have success in Athens, a place where Kirby Smart doesn't lose? They got the longest home win streak in the country. They're great at home, but Kirby Smart doesn't do well against Alabama. So what's going to give in this situation? I think the Bulldogs are a little more stout. I think they're better big game tested. They were impressive in that come-from-behind win at Tennessee. I like the Bulldogs to win. And that's only going to increase the pressure and the angst in Tuscaloosa when it comes to head coach Kalen DeBoer. You know, we'll find out. Maybe it's just not a good fit for him at Bama. So that game has great interest. I can't wait until tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to TCU and Arizona State because of the quarterback play with Josh Hoover from the Horned Frogs, Sam Levitt from West Lynn now playing with the Sun Devils. Two of the very good, exceptional young signal callers in the country. That's going to be worth the watch. So as you can see, we have a ton of great college football coming up this weekend. And the NFL games are good too. Baltimore and Kansas City. One team's going to walk away 1-3. How good are the Colts? We're going to find out. They play at the Rams this weekend. And the Broncos, can they muster something against a bad Bungles team on Monday night? We'll find out. I'm a little ticked off at the Broncos right now. They're irritating me. Antonio Boring's mad at me because I like the Raiders to beat the Bears this weekend. I think it's just a bad spot for the Bears. They're not a great football team right now. They win as a dog at home. Now they go on the road as a short favorite against the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to get the win. That's how I see it. So there you have it. That's what's coming up. Bino is coming up next. Thomas Red Tickets coming up at 4. And you can reach out to me at 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. You can also find me on social, on X, at Chad and Rip City. And you can always listen live and podcast the show via our free iHeartRadio app. So I appreciate your time live from Spirit Mountain Casino on this Thursday. Brian Bino, Fox Sports Radio is coming up next as we talk some ball here on the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Rip City Drive. I'm loving this because Brian Noah has been kind enough to dish out his time and join us each week to talk some football, and he's back again. Bino! Fox Sports Radio is back. My brother, this weekend is it's like the ultimate main event after a few weeks of foreplay, man. We got great games on Saturday and Sunday, man. I can't wait.
Chad Doing, always good to be with you, buddy. And I'll tell you what, you can think of me when it comes to ball as a time hoochie. I have no problem just giving my time away left and right. If we're talking ball, you kidding me? I love this stuff.
All right, so Monday night, I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to say to Brian Noah about this game? What's weird is that as football fans, I think we get conditioned over the course of time by certain teams. Like with Baltimore, we always think they run the football, they're a physical football team, and they play great defense. But the weird part is, after watching them against Detroit, they don't play great defense right now, Brian. In fact, they're getting torched, one of the worst in the league, and I thought it was an impressive win for Detroit to go in there and just physically manhandle them at the point of attack. And once again, Dan Campbell, he might be crazy, but he's got the largest set of balls in the entire NFL with the fourth down calls. It just blows me away. You know what?
I'll say this, though, Chad, too, and I'm with you, is, look, there are times where 1-800-GAMBLER, Dan Campbell, it blows up in his face, like against the Niners in the playoff game when he was just like, go for it, don't kick it, go for it. And it was just like catastrophe after catastrophe. So It doesn't always work.
No.
But it certainly did against the Ravens. And I'll tell you this, man, go back to week 1 with the Ravens blowing that big lead against the Bills. One of the things that's completely overlooked, the Ravens still had the lead, and they basically needed a first down to end the game.
Yeah.
And what do? Just conservative. Now we try to pick it up. Oh, we can't pick up the first down. We have to punt it away. And, oh, gosh, this is not going to go well, most likely. And it didn't. When you look at the Lions, they could have done the same thing. They could have said, you know what, even though we need just one more first down to basically end the game, let's get conservative. Our defense is playing really well. No reason to take a risk. Maybe the clock stops. It's not a good thing. Let's be conservative here. They didn't. They were aggressive. They went for it on fourth down. It's a beautiful play design, great execution, and they stomped on their throats. They closed the game down in style and didn't give Lamar and that offense a chance.
I agree, and here's what makes football so wonderful. It's every game matters, and now Baltimore comes out of that game, and they're going to play at Kansas City on Sunday, and it's hard to believe, but one of those two teams, Baltimore or Kansas City, is going to walk away from that game 1-3. That's wild to me.
I know it. 1-3.
Jeez.
For either of those teams,
yes.
Man. But, it's one of these deals. It's funny, right? Because you're talking about the Ravens' rush defense, and what do they go by? Sonic, and what are the nicknames of the Lions running backs? It's like Knuckles and Sonic or something. I forget. But anyway, with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery running wild on the Ravens. How about the Ravens? They're 31st against the pass also. Their defense is a wreck right now. Now, they've played some pretty good teams.
Yes.
But still, they've got to play way better defense than they have. If you score 40 points in a game like they did in week 1, that should be a win every single time. They lost that game to the Bills. So, their defense is not what we're used to at all.
Hey, what does gambling know think about the Chiefs? Once again, a home dog with Patrick Mahomes, getting like 2.5 points. You know how the public thinks. They're going to be all over the Ravens by Sunday, and you get a chance for Kansas City at home coming off the win over the Giants. What do you think about the matchup? How do you see it?
Yeah, I gambling no is kind of with gambling Chad on this one. I would take the points. Now, we've talked smack about, I don't know if we've talked smack or talked accuracy about the Ravens and their stinky ways so far this season, but we know they're dangerous. They're incredibly talented. It certainly could go into Arrowhead and win that game by 3 or more. Wouldn't be a shocker at all, but I don't like the Ravens' defense whatsoever. I can't trust them in the fourth quarter whatsoever, and I get Mahomes and probably Xavier Worthy back.
Yes.
With a much better defense right now. I'll take the 2.5 and take the home dog here. How many times do you get a chance to ride with Mahomes as a home dog? Not often.
No, not often. And who would have thought that Baltimore would be a get-right game for Mahomes? Isn't that crazy? That's how bad their defense is. It's like, are you kidding me?
I know, man. That's where we're at right now. And it's been a crazy season for both. You think about a couple of bounces, Derrick Henry fumbling in every game. The game against the Eagles for the Chiefs at home, and Kelsey had a chance to have a touchdown reception, and it bounces off, turns into an interception. So it's been kind of wild for both teams, but, man, here they are, both 1-2. That's wild.
Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio here on the Rip City Drive as we get ready for another phenomenal weekend of football, which is coming up, which is going to be great. I want to ask you about the Chargers. You know, it's been rough as a Bronco fan, back-to-back weeks of losing at the buzzer, but I want to know, I thought Justin Herbert, that throw that he made, the scramble throw to Keenan Allen for the game-tying touchdown to put them in a position to win, like that's one of the best throws I have seen in quite some time, and I'm just impressed with not only how Herbert is playing with Harbaugh, but their defense has been lights out, really phenomenal, and props to the Chargers because that was a tough spot. No, they traveled to Brazil, they beat the Chiefs, and then they play on a Monday night and beat the Raiders, and then on a short week they come back home and beat Denver, 3 straight division games, tough spot, and they get the job done.
You know what's crazy is if you look at Justin Herbert, it makes sense to a degree, but we miss out on a lot of things over here where it does make half sense that you compare Justin Herbert to the top guys in the NFL, right? And you're like, well, hey, where are the playoff wins? And it makes sense. You're comparing him to Mahomes and Josh Allen and Burrow and Lamar and all these guys. But if you compare Herbert to the guys below him, all of a sudden you have a new appreciation for him. If you compare him to Bo Nix isn't even close to Justin Herbert right now. He's not even the same zip code. I watched Bo Nix miss open guy after open guy after open guy. I'm like, that should have been a touchdown. That should have been another long completion. That should have been a touchdown. And here's Herbert making a play happen he had no business of making.
None.
That was an unbelievable touchdown throw by Herbert. But that's the thing. We shouldn't just compare Herbert to the guys above him. We should not forget about the guys below him at the same time.
I agree. I watched that game, and I'm like, well, I know one thing. Bo Nix is not Justin Herbert, not even close. And it just drives me crazy because Sean Payton, I know he's a good coach, but the guy's wildly arrogant. He's coming out before the season talking about how this is one of the 7 teams he's coached that has a chance to win a Super Bowl, talking about how Bo Nix, who hasn't even played a second year in the NFL, is going to be a top 5 quarterback in 2 to 3 years. And now he continues with the personnel groupings and the inability to stay committed to the run and stuff. It's like, hey, coach, why don't you just get your guys to play disciplined football and stop with the dumb penalties and the nonsense? It's like, just settle down, coach. It's driving me crazy, man. I can't take it.
Yeah.
And Nick's got to play better. He's not playing good enough.
Does. He is not. He's not playing good football at all right now. And, man, it's funny, right? If you think of a few coaches that had these statements in the offseason, I don't think it's automatically a horrible thing to have high expectations,
I agree.
right? Like, you think the same way. But when Sean Payton puts it out there like, Super Bowl, potentially, Dabo Sweeney put it out there with Clemson. Hey, maybe 16-0 this year. look at them now. And who else? Go back to the NFL. The Vikings were saying, hey, we really believe in J.J. McCarthy. We've got a 3-year Super Bowl window with him at the controls, yada, yada, yada. Look how all of those things have turned out so far. It's early on, but it's a disaster with Clemson. The Broncos haven't started the way they want to. J.J. McCarthy played 7 out of 8 bad quarters.
Yeah.
So, look, I don't think fundamentally there's anything wrong with high expectations. But, man, when you start talking like that and the results have been what they are, really tough to justify those expectations.
All right, Bino, what about this situation here? The Bears coming off their first win of the year over the Cowboys. But now it's a weird situation because they've got to travel on the road, and that role reversal of being a home dog winner to being now a short road favorite against the Raiders, I actually think the Raiders are going to win that game. What do you think about this matchup between two teams that have struggled through the first few games of the year?
Man, the Raiders are weird. That's the first thing is you think of good teams, like how many ways they could potentially beat you. You look at a bad team, like how many potential ways could they be beaten? The Raiders, their offensive line is awful. I heard a stat today, Chad. It blew my mind. Ashton Genty, who was tremendous in college, we all know this, 145 of his 143 yards this season have come after contact. Think about it. He has more yards after contact. It just shows you how bad that offensive line is. So the offensive line is bad. The defense you can't count on them at all. Geno Smith can turn the ball over, a couple of times at any given, moment in any given game. They got a lot of ways to lose games, And listen, The Raiders defense looks like the 85 Bears compared to the Cowboys, who was the Bears' opponent last week, right? So it's a step up in weight class, but you did see signs of life, finally, for that Bears offense. Caleb Williams looked good. I don't know if it's the Bears looking good. They finally went to Colston Loveland, their rookie tight end. That was nice. They got Luther Burden in the mix. Nice little flea flicker completion there. So there are signs of life for the Bears, but this is at least a better defense. The Cowboys probably have the worst defense in the league right now. No pass rush, no secondary, no nothing. They don't present any problems for an offense. So I want to see if the Bears can take their act on the road after what had to feel good. It was Ben Johnson's first win. But I think it sounds weird to say the Raiders are a step up in weight class, but defensively, compared to the Cowboys, they absolutely are.
All right, Bino, let's take a moment to relive one of the all-time bad beats this past weekend in Philadelphia.
They blocked him the last time. The ball is spotted. The kick is away. It's blocked! It's blocked! It's picked up by the Eagles. Running with it is Davis. 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! Game over! Jordan Davis!
Are you kidding me?
Blocked him again!
Are you kidding me?
Blocked him again! Have you ever seen anything like this?
Do you believe in miracles?
The Rams are standing silent. They can't believe what just happened to them. Successive field goal blocks. Win it for the Eagles. What a great, great game. What a great, great comeback. And the final score is 33-26.
Now, Bino, think about that. If you had the Rams plus the points in that situation, for 59 minutes and 57 seconds, you are going to win. And you know it because they were never in threat of not covering that number. And then all of a sudden, a field goal gets blocked. You go from being an outright dog winner to all of a sudden losing on the number because of a field goal that was blocked and returned by Jordan Davis, who once he got in the open field looked like freaking Earl Campbell.
I know, right? He hit 19 miles per hour.
Insane for a man of that size.
Yeah, that's ridiculous that he was running that fast at that size. He's like the defensive line version of Derrick Henry over there. That's crazy. I'll give you two quick stories connected to this, Chad.
Yes.
So the first one, I was over at a friend of a friend's house in Vegas on Sunday for the games. It's this beautiful house, great setup. We're watching the games. And the friend that I know, this guy Russ, is a big Eagles fan. And so he wants his team to win, but he also had them minus 3.5. And so he's watching this play unfold. The kick is blocked. He knows that the Eagles are going to win the game.
Yes.
There are a couple other Eagle fans there, and they're jumping up and down, celebrating with their backs to the TV screen.
Oh, because they didn't see the action.
They didn't. They're just like, Eagles, baby, we win. Like that sort of thing. And I'm pointing. I'm like, you're missing it. Like as Jordan Davis is getting his 4.2 40-yard time on there. And so that was just great. He turned around and Jordan Davis is in the end zone. So not only did his team win, but they also covered the spread and he won some cash on that. So that was a funny one. And I do have to tell you, Gambling Chad would love this story. So one of the guys I do the Saturday show with, Jared Smith, right? He's he's a sports handicapper, covers betting, all that stuff. He's on Countdown to Kickoff. But I was on Auburn on Saturday plus 6.5 against Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh.
Which was just disgusting. So they're trailing by 5 points. Auburn has the ball. There's a little more than a minute to go, and there's a kickoff return. I think there was a penalty on the kickoff return. There's another penalty. They're backing up. They get sacked. All of a sudden, Jackson Arnold's in the end zone, and I'm like, throw it. Throw the ball. Throw it away. Throw it anywhere, and he gets sacked, safety. And so the Saturday text thread, I'm like, that was disgusting.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, what a fluke win for Oklahoma to cover, and here comes Jared. Well, I don't know. If you look at the EPA breakdown.
Gosh, shut up.
I'm like, dude, are you kidding me right now? That's a complete suck-out win if you had Oklahoma to cover 6.5. And so the funny thing was the next day, he was on the Rams. And the Jordan Davis blocked field goal and touchdown messed up his bet. So I was like, if there's ever betting karma, that is it right there. If you're not going to chalk up Oklahoma covering to betting luck, I think the gambling gods frowned on that, Chad.
The other game, and that's a great story. Gosh, it's just the just knowing that with that safety, it's just painful, man. Painful.
Yeah.
The other game that jumped out at me was, the Packers, who were favored, about a touchdown favorite at Cleveland. The Browns were lifeless. But again, I get irritated at the Browns front office because I'm like, their defense showed up and showed out again, and they got the job done and won the game at the very end in the fourth quarter. But I'm thinking, dang, it's like if they just had reasonable quarterback play, that team would be a force to be reckoned with because that defense right now is playing lights out. It's impressive.
Man, they are. They're so nasty defensively. What they're doing, just shutting teams down. And think about these running backs. They shut down Josh Jacobs this last Sunday. They shut down Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry did nothing.
Yeah.
He had like 12 carries and 23 yards against the Browns defense. So, yeah, you're right. If they had a young gun quarterback, and listen, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, probably not the answer.
No. And I think they know that. Yeah.
I think they're going to lose enough games to be a team that's picking in the top 10. And even though the quarterback prospects, what we thought we were going to get from them this year, where they possibly were going to be when the draft rolls around,
Yep.
There have been some curveballs this season, but there are still some highly thought of prospects, and maybe the Browns can strike in the draft next year. I don't know.
All right, Bino, because you and I are radio professionals and we, again, like to honor clock integrity, can we just bring you back? Because I've got a lot. There's so much more to talk about, man. We got too many things to talk about, as a matter of fact. So are you good with that?
Absolutely, man. No doubt about it.
Right.
You and I, we have back murals of clock integrity, right? We are sticklers for it. So absolutely, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, that's right, man. We're like peas and carrots, Brian and I. All right, Bino, Fox Sports Radio, here on the Rip City Drive. We'll come back and continue to break down the week that's coming up in both the college and pro ranks in football. It's awesome. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Brian, no, kind enough to hold on and wait for me. I'll say this. I continue to be amazed at Coach O'Connell with the Vikings. He takes Carson Wentz in. J.J. McCarthy clearly in a little bit over his head, and they go out there and just win big this past weekend. And I'm like, man, it seems like everything that O'Connell touches turns to gold right now. That guy's impressive to me, no?
Yeah, man. He does a really, really good job, and I'll tell you what, I'm not saying Carson Wentz should be the guy going forward. I know better than that.
Yes.
But, man, that makes J.J. McCarthy look even worse, does it not? I know it's just one game, but first game without J.J. McCarthy, and this is fresh off of scoring 6 points against the Falcons, right? You get punked at home, you lose 22-6. First game with Carson Wentz. Again, sixth team in 6 years.
Yeah.
And they dust the Bengals 48-10.
Smashed them.
Smashed them. Now, the fine print is Wentz only threw it 20 times.
Yeah.
Right? And the game got away. But still, that maintain he'll be the quarterback when he's healthy, and they'll put him in there. I mean, you have to. That's the hope. Like, you're hoping that J.J. McCarthy is the quarterback of the now and the future. You know it's not going to be Carson Wentz. So, yeah, there are people like, hey, do they keep rolling with Carson Wentz? No, they don't. They do not keep rolling with Carson Wentz. I don't think that's going to happen at all.
All right, the other team that's been impressive, the Colts. They're 3-0, and Daniel Jones is playing great football. I really like the Rams this weekend at home against the Colts. Like, what do you think about that matchup? I think the line right now, Rams minus about 3.5 against Indy, who's unbeaten so far. Yeah,
it's a tricky one, right? Like, you look at what the Colts have done, and Daniel Jones has been impressive. Jonathan Taylor's done his thing.
Yeah, he's been great.
Defense been pretty good, all things considered. But then you're like, wait, you get a tap on the shoulder, and it's like you realize the teams that they've beaten, their collective record is 1-8 right now, right? You do. So this is a gigantic step up in weight class for the Colts. And you think about the quarterbacks that they faced, not exactly a who's who, right? They faced Tua. They had, let's see, last week it was the rookie in Cam Ward. And what was week 2? I can't remember. Do you remember the Colts week 2 win over there?
I do, and I feel like you're setting me up for pain. It was the Broncos with the stupid penalty.
That's right. It's Bo Nix, not exactly upper echelon right now. So you go from Tua. My guy Tua looks broken right now.
Oh, gosh.
You go from Tua, Bo Nix, and the Cam Ward combo platter to Matthew Stafford. And that Rams offense with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, and that is a great, great test for the Colts defense. So I think just a step up in weight class, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to win the game. I think it's going to be tough to cover the number if you're looking at it from that perspective.
What's crazy is that before the year, the division that I'm most wrong about by far is the AFC South. I thought going in, it was the easiest division to predict. I thought, okay, the Texans win the division. They'll be the only playoff team. And I thought the Colts with the Saints were one of the 2 worst teams in football. And I couldn't be more wrong. Like, the Texans are unwatchable. I'm not going to watch another one of their games until further notice. They can't move the ball. They can't block for C.J. Stroud. They're terrible. And then the Colts have been lights out. And I guess I failed to recognize Shane Steichen and the coach that he is. With the quarterbacks he's worked with, we know about the success with Jalen Hurts. And now he's got Daniel Jones, working with better players around him. The guys you mentioned, plus the offensive line is playing well. Like, I've been very impressed with that operation. I don't know where they're going to end up at the end of the year, but I know one thing. They've got a much better chance to win the division than the Texans do. It's impressive what they've done.
Yeah, it really is. It's funny, right? You could probably relate to this, Chad. Do you ever think too much to a fault?
Oh, that's the story of my life. Overanalyze and then bring nothing but stress on myself.
I think that's what I did with the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Because initially I'm like, they're not world beaters.
Yeah.
I definitely want to fade them, even in the AFC South. Just who's going to win that division? I want to fade them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? A lot of this stems from we see them in a weak division make it to the playoffs, and then eventually they get punked.
Yeah.
And we get to see them get wrecked by a team.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't think the same thing would happen if the Colts were in the playoffs or the Titans or the Jags? They get wrecked also. So I don't want to fade the Texans just because I see them lose to better teams in the playoffs. So I'm like, with that in mind, they'll probably still win this division. So I started off on the right track. Man, I want to fade these bums. They're not world beaters. And I ended up with, well, I'm going to roll with them anyway. I don't trust anybody else in that division. And at least 3 weeks in, man, the Texans are nowhere near trustworthy right now.
No, I agree, man. I got snookered. Oh, by the way, I think Gambling Chad likes the Bucks plus 3.5. at home against Philly. I don't know what it is about Tampa, but Philly doesn't play well when they go down there. What do you think about that one?
I know it, man. They've got their number, right? We've seen this repeatedly from Tampa, and I'm with you on that. It's tough to cover over a field goal on the road when you've had as many problems as the Eagles have.
Yeah.
And look, man, it was a great comeback against the Rams. Give them credit. Would you be high on the Eagles if, say, that last field goal isn't blocked?
No,
right?
not.
Like, you're looking at them much differently. So it's a phony win by the Eagles at home. And one thing, Tampa has lost a couple of players. No Mike Evans. You lose a defensive lineman.
Yeah, defensive lineman. Yeah.
Yeah, so slowing down Saquon, I think that's where it starts for Tampa's defense. I still think they have enough to not get gashed by Saquon. And I just can't trust that Eagles passing offense right now. It was good when they needed it against the Rams, but we've seen just glimpses of what Jalen Hurts is doing with that offense. And Drew Brees is like, this offense is brutal. Like, I can't watch this offense. So bad. It's boring. So with all that being said, I know that Philly's going there early to try to get used to the heat. Yeah, good luck. I don't think being in Florida for 2 more days is going to be like, we're great on Sunday. So, yeah, I'd take the points in that one too, Chad. I'm with you.
I'm with you on that one. And the other thing that Baker has shown to prove your point, he doesn't lock in on one receiver. And during his time in Tampa, he's dealt with injuries before. He's very comfortable spreading it around. So I think if there's any quarterback in any particular system that can get through the injuries that he's got to deal with right now in the core, it would be Baker because of his willingness to spread it around.
Hey, man, and I'll tell you, both of those guys, Jalen Hurts and Baker, they've been cool under fire.
Very.
You think about all 3 wins for Tampa, right? He had to lead them against the Falcons to a late score, had to lead them against the Texans to a late score. That last drive against the Texans was unbelievable. I think of 4th and 10, and he's scrambling for the first down, and they eventually score. And then last week, this crazy blocked field goal, and the Jets take it in for a score, and all of a sudden you need points or you're going to lose. And he's like, I got this, no problem. And then Jalen Hurts last week against the Rams, cool under fire for both of those guys. And that can't be overlooked whatsoever. I think we get so caught up in stats and what's your rating and all that. It's like, are you cool under fire? Can you produce points when you have to have them from behind? And both of those guys have answered that question, yes, so far this year.
I agree. Brian O, Fox Sports Radio, hanging out, talking ball here on the RipCityDrive. All right, some big college games. Top 5 matchup with Oregon and Penn State. Right now, the Nittany Lions, a 3.5-point favorite in the whiteout, kickoff at 4:30. What do you think about this one?
I'm taking the points here, Chad. It's like you look at Penn State. We're talking about, can you trust these teams?
No.
You can't trust Penn State.
Not James Franklin, baby. No. They don't win big games, no.
They just don't. And could they win this game? Sure, they could. At some point, it's going to happen. But when you've played Billy Bob Tech and McGillicuddy State to start off your season.
Their schedule is probably the easiest in the entire country. Bums.
Dude, Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova.
It's a joke.
That's what they've played so far.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
And I don't want to say that, Oregon has played Murderer's Row, but at least Oklahoma State's an FBS team who they crushed. The Beavs they're struggling right now, right? But it's an early kick time against Northwestern. At least it's not a who's who that they've played, but it's been a more impressive schedule than Penn State. I just think Penn State, the bums that they've slayed, and stepping up in weight class to Oregon, that is a big step up in weight class, man. So I think, hey, if you're looking for a gambling angle, maybe first quarter, first half, that's tough to get on that level immediately for Penn State. But I would take the points in the full game there.
100%. B-No, Fox Sports Radio is here. All right, Bama is at Georgia. Interesting to see the line sitting at about 3 to 3.5. This is the first time Bama's played in Athens since like 2015. And you got Kirby Smart, who never loses a home game. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you gotta look toward the Dogs, and I don't like their defense. I don't like what we saw against Tennessee, but I got news for you. Alabama is not Tennessee offensively. I love Bama's wide receivers. Absolutely, I do. But, this quarterback, he's been better. He's been better than the opener against Florida State. But against the Dogs, you're right. Like Kirby Smart, I think he's the best head coach in college football. They just have Bama's number. They just figure it out typically. And being at home, that is a tough place to head in and just win a road game. And Bama has been freaking awful, Chad, on the road. And it stems back not just with this current Kalen DeBoer regime, even back the late, the last little bit of the Nick Saban regime on the road has not been good. But specifically under Kalen DeBoer, I'm not backing Bama on the road in this spot. No way. Can't do it, even though Georgia's defense has some holes in it.
All right, Bino, Fox Sports Radio is here. I'm trying to think any other good matchups. I mean, there's a lot of good ones in the top 25. The other game I'm looking at from a gambling no perspective is you've got USC laying a touchdown on the road against Illinois, who just come off that beat down at the hands of Indiana. They were awful. But West Coast team traveling East Coast, playing a 9 a.m. kickoff on the road against a team that just got embarrassed. That could be upset alert right there, possibly.
Yeah, could be. The power of embarrassment is real.
Yes.
And Illinois got bumped.
I know. I've got plenty of experience in that category, no. Yep.
Yeah. And just go with your best pickup line to the next girl, Chad. It's all right. It happens.
Gosh.
You get a drink thrown on you. Whatever.
We
You'll
should
live.
hang out sometime. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm good. Yeah, I've gotten that a few times.
Yeah, no doubt. But, hey, man, it's a week-to-week league, not just in the NFL, but also college football. And even though Illinois got absolutely punked, we'll see if they're better this week against USC. It's weird looking at Illinois. Illinois was fantastic against Duke. I thought that was a decent spot where, the Dukies might get them. And, man, Luke Altmaier was throwing it all over the place. They looked fantastic against Duke, and they got absolutely bulldozed by the Hoosiers. That was wild, man. But, yeah, I'll keep an eye on that one. I'm excited for LSU and Ole Miss. I'm excited for 90 points to be scored in this Notre Dame-Arkansas game. Like, nobody can stop anybody in that one. That should be a wild one.
Oh, my goodness. It's going to be great. All right, Bino, Fox Sports Radio. And by the way, your Irish being ranked in the top 25 is a bit comical, too. I'm sure you understand that.
They deserve it, Chad. I will not stand for you talking smack about my Irish. No, I get it. Hey, listen, it was, going into last week, it's the first time since 1988 that an 0-2 team was ranked. So I get that it's a joke, and their defense sucks. I don't know what's happened to them. But, I mean, listen, they lost to two teams in the top 10 by 4 points combined.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like they've lost to, like, Penn State's road schedule or something like that.
Yeah. No, I love it. We're calling out bums and defenses that suck. Baltimore is trash. Notre Dame is trash. It's like, come on, figure it out, guys.
Man, they were really good the last couple of years defensively, and I think you, me, and Shacker could put up at least 17 points on them.
I agree. I think that you and I need to do a continued job of just bringing shame to some of these programs that aren't getting the job done. Baltimore being the worst defense in the NFL is unacceptable under John Harbaugh. It's unacceptable. That should never happen.
Yeah, it's insane, man. They're too good to play that badly.
The Texans with C.J. Stroud should not be inept on offense, and yet here we are. It's like, come on, man, what are we doing? And Sean Payton, the genius, and I know he's a genius because he tells me all the time, it's like, hey, moron, can you please figure out your offense? Because right now it's bored. Oh, I love it, too, at the end of the game. So Bo Nix is on that scramble run. His knee comes down like a half yard shy of the line to gain. Let's punt the football and gain 20 yards of field position so, Herbert can go down and score. Go for it, you idiot. Gosh.
He does some weird stuff, man.
It's
you go back to week
on.
1, remember against the Titans?
Yes.
Where it's like he's in field goal range. You're up by 8 points. So you could either kick a field goal or you could pin him deep, just punt it. He's like, let's go for it, and throw like a mini Hail Mary that's not even close to being completed.
Dude, you know how you realize, and I know you know this, but that decision right there was borderline malpractice. It's like, what are you doing, bro?
It was. It's like that was the worst option. You chose the worst option, man. What was that?
It was a bad option. I'm mad at Sean Payton right now. I don't like his arrogance, and I don't like the fact that his offense for being a genius sucks. And it does. Bo Nix right now, I think, is like 31 out of 31 in terms of QBR.
And that's the scary thing is, you look at how C.J. Stroud has regressed. He was tremendous his rookie season. He's got a new offensive coordinator, and there are reasons, but he doesn't look like the same quarterback at all. That has to strike fear in your heart about Bo Nix. I liked how he looked his rookie year.
Me too.
But Sean Payton did a good job. It's like, all right, we're going to give him some simple reads. Let's get the screen game going. Like, let's not be too complex over here. And what you're seeing is defensive coordinators are like, oh, he likes to throw the ball outside. Not too good in the middle of the field. Huh, interesting. Valuable information right there. And he's throwing picks left and right, throwing outside the numbers, and He just does not look comfortable or confident right now.
I agree. All right, Bino, Fox Sports Radio. He's a beautiful man for a lot of good reasons, and that's because he's talking ball with me. Bino, Fox Sports Radio. Check him out Saturday and Sunday mornings. Countdown to kickoff. It's a beautiful show, and Bino is awesome. Bino, I love you.
Dude, I love you too, Chad Doing. Always great to talk ball with you, man. Enjoy the weekend. And I would say hopefully all your bets cash, but you're not betting. So I hope that all my bets cash.
I
How's
do.
that?
I do because, and I don't want to know which games you're on because it would give me anxiety. No one's like, oh, Bino's got to be upset right now because I know what that feels like. It sucks.
Yeah, you know, you got to embrace the stress, Chad. You know, you got to embrace the stress and the bad times. You know, just shake it off. I'm getting better at that after nearly dying because of Gary Trent Jr. over there. I'm getting a lot better about just letting things go.
No, I love it, man. All right, Bino, we'll catch up next week.
All right, buddy. Have a good one, Chad.
You got a big weekend coming up in college football. So what I wanted to do was give you a chance to get an idea of who's going to win which games, because there's a number of big games. Obviously, Oregon and Penn State, Bama and Georgia, Ole Miss and LSU. And that's just to name a few. But so many big games. And Brett Cianci at Pick Six Previews had a chance to join me and break down some of the action. And so I want you to hear his picks of the games coming up this weekend. But the first thing I ask him, since he puts together a full-on preview, I ask him about the biggest surprise thus far. And there's plenty of options, right? USC's improved play, Clemson's collapse, Florida State coming out of nowhere. What's been the biggest surprise? Here's what Brett had to say.
Yeah, I think you got to go Clemson because this was really a consensus pick. All the magazines, all the analysts, pretty much everybody considered them a playoff favorite. Definitely the ACC favorite, heavy odds to win it. So not just that they're no longer that, but to see them getting blown out by Syracuse, a team that was picked towards the bottom, and a team themselves that was blown out by Tennessee. So Clemson just looking totally dysfunctional at a 1-3, their worst start in 20 years. I think that's got to be the starting point. I would have said Alabama as a surprise, but I think the jury's still out on them. They're going to have a chance to set the record straight Saturday night against Georgia to try and wash away that opening loss to Florida State. But, yeah, Clemson, the biggest surprise in that direction. Maybe Indiana being a surprise about that they're right where they left off last year in terms of blowing teams out. A 63-point bomb on Illinois last week was incredible to watch. Texas Tech, I'm not as surprised, and I think it's been a great start, but I had them second in the Big 12 coming in. I had them 15th in the country in the magazine there. So I was really excited to watch Texas Tech. They put all that oil money together and signed a top class, and it's paying off. So, yeah, it's been a crazy start to the year.
I love it so much. All right, let's start with Friday night. Big game in the Big 12. Arizona State's going to be hosting TCU. Arizona State just came off a road win at Baylor, their first conference game. This will be TCU's first conference game, and a battle of two great young quarterbacks in Sam Leavitt and Josh Hoover. Right now, the Sun Devils are a 2.5-point favorite at Sun Devils Stadium. What's your take on this matchup?
Yeah, well, within this conference, I think Texas Tech is number one, and then these two are my number 2 and number 3 right now. So this might go a long way in determining a spot in Dallas for the conference title game. So far, TCU has looked stronger, undefeated coming in. Their offense has been electric all 3 games. And last week against SMU, Eric McAllister went off for 250 receiving yards, one of the best performances of the whole year. Arizona State, they've not looked like the defending Big 12 champs so far. They lost down there in Starkville. And really against Northern Arizona, their FCS test, they struggled too. Now, a big win against Baylor. Both teams in this matchup are coming off big wins. I'm going to go TCU here. I think the wrong team is favored. I'll go TCU. Despite it being on the road, I like them to win it outright. I think TCU is legit, so I'll go with the Horned Frogs.
All right, Brett, on Saturday morning, interesting matchup. You mentioned Indiana. They throttled Illinois, who's going to be hosting USC. They're a 7-point dog. What I like about the Trojans thus far under Lincoln Riley, they're back to playing Lincoln Riley ball that we saw at Oklahoma, where they're really getting off with the run. They're averaging over 7 yards a carry right now. Good balance, good play action opportunities for Jordan Mayava. And Illinois, 10 wins last year. Most of their starters returning off the team from last year, and they're at home coming off that blowout loss. What do you think about the matchup with USC and Illinois?
Yeah, well, Illinois was one of those teams in the preview magazine where I went against the crowd. I really diverged from the consensus. They were coming in a top 10 team. I had them 35th, way outside the top 25. I just didn't see it from Illinois this year. You look at their advanced stats profile, it did not look like a 10-win team. So far, I mean, that's been a little bit vindicated with the Indiana blowout. But yeah, with USC, I really like their offense. It goes without saying, it's Lincoln Riley. And like you said, they're balanced. They got the run game going. Great cast of receivers for Jaden Mayava. He's right now the number 1 in quarterback rating stat in the country. So really lighting it up. He looks much improved from last year. The true test with USC to see if they're going to be a playoff contender or not is whether this defense has taken a step in the second year of their coordinator, Danton Lynn. We're going to learn a lot Saturday, but especially when they go up against Michigan and Notre Dame in October. So far, so good for USC. A couple tests coming. I think they win and cover that. I think they're going to win by 10+ at Illinois.
Oh, that's terrific. All right, this game here, a big one of the biggest games that Husky Stadium's had in quite some time. Number 1, Ohio State is going to be taking on Washington. Julian Sand, the youngster for the Buckeyes, has looked good in early action play, but the Buckeyes really haven't been tested, and maybe now with what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, maybe that win over Texas wasn't as good as we first thought. Washington coming off the big one over Washington State. I've been very impressed with DeMond Williams Jr., the way that he's been able to really play with his arm and his legs. Right now, the current line that I'm seeing, Brett, Ohio State an 8.5-point favorite on the road. What do you think about these two squads?
Yeah, you're right about Damon Williams. I tweeted out a couple weeks ago. I think he's the best kept secret in college football.
No doubt.
He's phenomenal. And, I'm on the East Coast, so it's usually 1 a.m. when I get to watch this guy. But I'm up there every second watching it. And, he's fun to watch. Jonah Coleman, a tough runner at running back, and they've really bolstered their offensive line. I know they were thin there in the transition year last year, but much improved under Jed Fish this year. They deserve to be ranked. I think it's crazy they're not even ranked or receiving any votes in the AP. That's wild to me. I think they're definitely a top 25 team. So, you have strength versus strength when you have Washington with the ball going up against this Ohio State defense that might be number one in the country in most metrics on defense. So the real question to me is whether Washington's secondary, they have some injuries over there. Can they contain this arsenal of receivers that Ohio State's bringing? Because it's NFLers, all three of them, plus Max Clare at tight end. So can't wait to watch this one. And then one last note here, a little nugget, is Ohio State being number one in the country against an unranked team, single-digit favorite. That hasn't happened in about 12 years, 2012 USC against Notre Dame. So really rare territory here for a number one team to be just a single-digit favorite.
That's impressive. Another big game at 12:30. Number 4, LSU's at number 13, Ole Miss. Ole Miss right now, 1.5-point favorite. Really an interesting game because Ole Miss has been humming pretty well on offense. LSU offense has found a few hiccups early in the season, but their defense has been dominant. I love this game. I can't wait to watch it. What do you think with LSU and Ole Miss?
Yeah, fascinating when Ole Miss has the ball because you have Trinidad Chambliss, a Division II transfer, a quarterback, and he's passed both of his first two tests, 400-plus yards both times. His coaches are drawing Baker Mayfield comparisons, and he's got the size, the build, the moxie that you could consider that. And going up against an LSU defense, one of the best in the country, I think. And they paid for it. They made Blake Baker the highest paid coordinator in college football history last year, and it's paying off here in his second season. So that's going to be fascinating to watch. I think I like Ole Miss at home here to win it, and my numbers say so. I have Ole Miss by a point or two. Looks like Vegas agrees. And now that we've seen LSU's big wins kind of fade, of course that was Clemson and Florida, both of them sitting 1-3 and looking nowhere near the top 25. I think you have to reevaluate what they've showed us so far. So I'll go Ole Miss here. All
right, Brett Ciancia, Pick Six previews here on the Rip City Drive. You mentioned Indiana being dominant. They looked great last week against Illinois. 12:30 kick on Peacock. Number 11, Indiana's at Iowa. The Hawkeyes great defensively. They're getting 7.5 points at home. How do you think Indiana will respond on the road coming off that big win over Illinois?
Yeah, well, Indiana really just a complete game, both sides of the ball, all three phases really, with that block punt for a touchdown to open the scoring. And their quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, now 14 touchdowns, 0 picks. It's the best in the country. He's rising up the Heisman boards really quickly. And going up against an Iowa team and an Iowa secondary did not look like the usual Iowa Hawkeyes last week. They gave up touchdowns on the first 3 drives against Rutgers over there in Jersey. And this is not a ranked team by any means, the Rutgers. So Rutgers was throwing all over their secondary. That's a big concern for me with Indiana coming to town. So although it's one of the hardest places to play in the Big Ten, and I know Indiana might be coming off a big win, I think they're going to be refocused and go in there and get the W and cover. So I'll go Indiana here. They showed me a lot Saturday against Illinois.
Well, that was a great performance. We talked about how great the games are this Saturday. I think we're going to learn a lot about several football teams. One of those is Arizona. They're 3-0, getting a chance to play their first game in Big 12 action at number 14 Iowa State. Right now, the Cyclones, a 6.5-point favorite. I've been impressed with what the Cats have been able to do thus far. What do you think about this game here with Arizona and Iowa State?
Yeah, I like Arizona to win this one outright. I'll call for the upset.
Wow.
I watched them play Kansas State, and this is a time where the score and the box score is a little misleading. They beat Kansas State by 3. In fact, both teams beat Kansas State close, but Arizona outgained them by like 400 yards. It was very strange box score. They looked like the better team, and I'm not so sold on Iowa State. I like Rocco Becht. In fact, I love him at quarterback. He's so clutch. He's led so many fourth-quarter wins. But the rest of the team, I have questions. So I'm going to go Arizona. Their passing attack looks awesome. I think they're much improved in year 2.
All right, now to the 2 big games. First off, 4:30 on ABC. Number 17, Alabama, playing at number 5, Georgia. Right now, the Bulldogs anywhere between a 3 to a 3.5-point favorite. Bama has to go on the road. They haven't played in Athens since, I think, 2015, Brett. And, Georgia, under Kirby Smart, they basically never lose a home game. So what do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, you're right. It's the nation's longest active home win streak there, 30-plus games. They haven't lost in forever between the hedges. But with that said, Kirby Smart has an Alabama problem because you look at him since 2020, they're 63-3 against everybody else, 1-4 against Alabama.
Unreal.
So they've had their number, and it's no fault. It's the Saban dynasty. It's the top two recruiters in the country here going at it. So a lot of star power on the field. We're going to learn a lot about both. Georgia came a little bit slow out of the gates with their offense, but then they lit it up against Tennessee in a shootout. Alabama, same deal, slow against Florida State, but their quarterbacks have been perfect since. Ty Simpson went 17 for 17 in the second game. So I like Alabama here. I view it more as a toss-up. So if you're giving me a field goal plus, I'll go Bama. There's some value there. I think they're going to win it outright and end this win streak between the hedges.
Well, I think you know what everyone in the state of Oregon is going to be doing at 4:30 on Saturday. They'll be tuned into NBC watching number 6 Oregon take on number 3 Penn State. Right now, the Nittany Lions, a 3.5-point favorite. You know, the big knock on Penn State under James Franklin is they don't win the big games, Brett. And for the Ducks this year, the offensive line, the continuity with the new tackles they brought in has been great. They've got the running game pop back in their offense, unlike last year. And it appears that Dante Moore is bringing a little more dynamic play with his ability to stretch the field. This is a great game. I've been impressed with the Ducks thus far. Do you think they've got enough up front defensively to contain that Penn State run game and that offensive line?
Yeah, definitely. I was blown away with the talent acquisition that Dan Lanning continued this cycle. Number one from the transfer portal and number one from the high school ranks. You can do it per player.
That's
not
good.
The overall class, but per player. Yeah, very impressed. So it's young. It's youth. This is the big first test for a lot of them. Dante Moore has some starting experience, but I think this is the toughest venue he'll be playing in. I did a study here with my weekly edition, my Pick 6 Plus, looking at the history of the Penn State whiteout. And, this is dating back to 2002. They host their biggest game of the year. They call it the whiteout. Everyone wears white. It's a night game. They are 14-6 straight up. And that might not sound that impressive, but that's usually against a top 10 team, usually a highly ranked opponent. They're their toughest of the year. And they're on an 8-0 trend against the spread in whiteouts, too. So it is arguably the hardest place to play when they do their whiteout. So with that said, I think Oregon can definitely compete. Their offense has definitely had more success. There was explosive plays, top 10 in both explosive passing and rushing. Penn State well below average in both. It's like pulling teeth trying to get them to score points while Oregon scores at the blink of an eye. So I think Oregon will definitely compete. I am going Penn State here to win it. Now, if these two rematch in December or January in the playoff, it's probably going to flip over to Oregon once they get 10 more games under their belt. But with this first big road test, I'm going to go Penn State.
All right. Since this is the first time I've talked to you this year, who do you have in the national title game?
Well, right now, you got to look at Ohio State and Miami. Ohio State, just based off their resume win over Texas, that looks like the best win on the docket. Maybe Florida State's win over Bama, you could argue, but it's just so early. We haven't seen a lot of teams play a ranked game yet. So I'll stick with the defending champs, Ohio State. And then Miami has really shown me a lot on both sides of the ball. We had questions with their quarterback transition from Cam Ward to Carson Beck. So far, so good. Great receivers. They have a great offensive line with Mario Cristobal. And then on defense, that was their liability last year, but they pumped that roster with great transfers. And now that defensive line looks like one of the best in the country. So Miami, they're going to be favorites every single game the rest of the way. I've got them going 11-1 or 12-0 at this point, and that would compute definitely a long playoff run.
How great is that Florida State-Miami game going to be coming up on October 4th? I can't wait.
I'm really excited, too. I'm on the younger side, so I never got to experience that at its peak, the 80s and 90s.
It was
awesome. I know, so I feel like I've lost out on part of the college football experience. So looking to get a little slice of that back this year. Hopefully they both come in undefeated. That'll be a heck of a matchup.
All right, Brett Ciancia, Pick 6 previews. Brett, I don't know how many hours of football you watch every week, but it's absurd. You're watching high school. You're paying attention to the college. You're all over this stuff. I know you're busy, so thank you so much for your time. And, hey, enjoy the games this weekend. And we know what guys need to say to their friends who want to invite them to a wedding in the fall. Say, no, I got things to do.
Just say no. Yeah, it's that simple. No, thanks for having me, and good luck, Ducks. Good luck, Oregon and Oregon State this week.
All right, big thanks to Brett Ciancia. Love talking with him. Right now, if you'd like to go see Thomas Rhett in concert coming up this Friday, tomorrow at the Cascades Amphitheater up in Ridgefield, call now. We got 2 pairs of tickets. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Call now, and you will get a pair of tickets for Thomas Rhett. We'll take the first 2 callers, 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. Call now for Thomas Rhett. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Well, it's pretty awesome. Basketball season is right around the corner. Trailblazers Media Day is coming up on Monday. And the first preseason game on October 8th. And a big part of our coverage, and someone I enjoy talking to, is Sean Hyken of the Rose Garden Report, our Trailblazer insider for 620 Rip City Radio. And he joins me once again. Sean, it's always great to talk to you, buddy. How about what we saw on Sunday where, no surprise, Rip City showed up and showed out to welcome Dame back at Pioneer Courthouse Square, and then Dame, in true Dame fashion, was able to speak for multiple minutes to the fans to express how happy he was to be back. And I thought what really stood out to me was he's like, hey, of course I'm happy to be back in town and be with my family and to be able to be a father every day and be with my kids. But I also like this roster. And he started talking about some of the players and the depth and the versatility. And I thought that was pretty cool. A great showing for Dame. What was your reaction to what you saw?
Because they've been doing workouts and pickup runs and stuff at the team's practice facility. But all the young guys are excited to have Dame back, too.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. You can see the young guys, the enthusiasm for, the fact that they were there. I was just surprised that half the team was there, because normally this time of year, Sean, a lot of guys are still out of town getting in some of that last-second family time before they show up for camp. But to welcome so many guys to the stage, I was surprised. I couldn't see the players, his teammates there because of the sea of fans, but that impressed me to see those guys show up and support Dame.
Yeah, I can only go off of what I saw on social media because I wasn't there at all. But, yeah, it's maybe part of it is because it's kind of a younger team, so maybe not a lot of these guys have kids or have, families that they need to, get as much time with as possible. But, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that so many of the guys on the team were there.
All right, Sean, as we approach Media Day, what are some of the questions or answers you're looking forward to seeking out as we get a chance to talk to all the players and coaches come Monday?
Well, I'm very interested in Scoot's summer because we've seen a lot of stuff on YouTube about him doing stuff in LA with Drew Holiday and with Rajon Rondo and some other guys. This is a big year coming up for Scoot. This is the first year where I think we can, with Anthony Simons out the door, and we don't know what's going to happen with some of the starting lineup. But Scoot is going to have as big of an opportunity as he ever has, I think, to really, take that starting point guard spot and step, build on some of the improvement that we saw from him at the end of the season last year. So I'm interested in that. Obviously, as we go through training camp, I'm interested to see how the starting lineup is going to shake out for opening night because realistically, there's 7 players competing for 5 spots. So I'm interested in how that's going to turn out. The upcoming contract situations for Shaedon Sharpe and Toumani Camara is something that's as of right now still unresolved. So those are just a few things. And then obviously, Young Hansen, he did not play for China this summer in the Asia Cup tournament. And so I think he's been in the U.S. for most of the summer. So I'm going to be curious, how much he's been doing, how he's been acclimating to America, how he's been acclimating to Portland, how much he's been able to kind of be around the team and around the coaches. Those are just a few of the things. But obviously every training camp brings a whole new set of storylines.
Do you expect Coach Billups to once again let everyone know that, hey, we're going to let the players decide who the starting 5 is going to be? Do you think he'll open it up to competition like we've seen in years past?
That's been his line, and it would not. I don't think it would be fair to any of the players for him to come out on media day before they've had a single practice in training camp and say, yes, we've already decided who the starting lineup is going to be. The only starting spot that I think is probably pretty solidified is Donovan Clingan at the center spot. But then, you look at the 2 guard spots, and you're talking about 3 guys there with Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and Drew Holiday. Only 2 of those guys can start. And then at the forward spots, you've got Denny Avdia, Toumani Camara, and Jeremy Grant, and only 2 of those 3 guys can start. So that's all going to play itself out in camp. I can't imagine anybody's going to come out and say, yes, this is who the opening night starters are going to be, on the first day of camp before they've had a single practice.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the 2 key players there you mentioned, Jeremy Grant and Drew Holiday, will they start or is it going to be the young guys? I think that's the battle. That's the positions that everyone's going to be watching, right? And everything else seems pretty simple, but with the vets, Jeremy Grant and Drew Holiday, 2 proven guys, will they start or will they come off the bench? You've already made the point that regardless of the role that Grant has, he'll embrace that and be happy with that. But that's what I'm going to watch because I want to see how it plays out, and I want to see what Drew Holiday looks like.
If you're making me guess right now, and again, this is obviously just a guess because nobody's decided any of this stuff, if you make me guess right now what the opening night starting lineup is going to be, I think the one that makes the most sense to me is probably Scoot, Drew, Camara, Avdia, Clingan. You split the difference. You have one of those 2 veterans start, and I think, Scoot and Drew, together in the backcourt is kind of a good fit, especially on the defensive end. Holiday's a pretty big upgrade there over Anthony Simons, and then you kind of give Shaedon Sharpe the ability to kind of be the offensive engine on the second unit, and then with Jeremy, I just obviously he has the tenure and he has the experience, but I just don't. We've talked about this many times. I don't know how you can't start both Toumani Camara and Denny Avdia, so someone's got to be the odd man out there. That's just how I see it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. You've written about this, and I'm hoping that maybe you can provide some understanding to my listening audience. We know that the Paul Allen estate has reached a formal agreement to sell the Trailblazers to a group led by Tom Dundon, who owns the Carolina Hurricanes. And we also got this reported by Law 360 that RAJ Sports, the company which owns the Portland Thorns and the incoming Portland Fire from the WNBA, they're putting out a lawsuit on the Schurng family, the founders of Panda Express, who are minority owners with the Trailblazers. What's going on?
I don't know much more than is out there publicly. And my understanding is that in the next couple of days, a lot of the documents that are under seal are going to be unredacted, and that stuff is going to become public. So I would think in the next couple of days we'll know a little bit more about what the actual complaint is. But my best, ability to put the pieces together right now is some variation. Obviously, we'll find out what the real details are. But what it sounds like happened was the Basals, who, it's Raj Sports, that's their company. Then they own the Thorns, like you said. They just got the WNBA expansion team, and they've been in the NBA family for over 10 years because they have a minority stake in the Sacramento Kings. When the Paul Allen estate put the Blazers up for sale, they were going to try to put a group together to buy the team. And what it sounds like happened, because they're suing the Schurng family. I think this is the thing that's important for people to understand. The Basals are not suing the Blazers, and they're not suing Vulcan, and they're not suing the NBA, and they're not suing Tom Dundon. So they're not trying to challenge the fact that Tom Dundon's group is going to be the group that buys the team, or that the Paul Allen estate made the decision to sell to them and not to their group. Their issue is entirely with the Schurng family, and from what I can kind of piece together, maybe the Basals and the Schurng family had an agreement that they were going to, put a group together, and that the Schurng family, who I think has significantly more money than anybody else involved in any of this stuff, was going to be kind of a lot of the capital in their group. And then when the Vulcans chose the Tom Dundon bid over their bid, the Schurng family then, switched sides, so to speak, and came on board with the Dundon group, and the Basals are not happy about that. That's the best I can piece together right now. But again, in the next couple of days, we should have a little bit more clarity as some of these documents become public.
All right, I've been dying to ask you because I haven't talked to you about this yet, but what are your thoughts on the Pablo Torre report that the Clippers use this company Aspire to be able to circumvent the salary cap and pay Kawhi Leonard an extra $28 million? And according to reports, Ballmer invested $50 million in this company Aspiration back in 2021, and from all the reports, it was basically a no-show job. No posts, no work, no nothing. We're just going to give you $28 million to be able to endorse the company. I mean, it smells bad. What's your read on this?
Well, it doesn't look good, but we'll see where the investigation ends up. One thing that's going to be kind of awkward with all of this is where is the All-Star game this year? What arena is it in?
The Intuit Dome.
It is in the Intuit Dome, and so either they, I don't think they're going to get, a resolution to this anytime soon because there's a ton of documents to review. But are they going to, if they decide that, the Clippers did this and they suspend Steve Ballmer, is he going to be suspended from the All-Star game in his own building, or are they going to not have this resolved by the All-Star break and then Adam, talks about it again? That's the part. That part's going to be awkward. I have no idea how the investigation is actually going to play out. Obviously it doesn't look good for the Clippers based on just everything that's out there, but it's way above my pay grade to actually decide how that's going to shake out.
All right. I think the Trailblazers, you can tell me if I'm crazy or not, but I really think they've got a chance to get to 44 or 45 wins this year. I expect them to be much better defensively to start this year, unlike last season. And I think we'll see more of the defensive unit that we saw in the second half of last year. The offense is going to be a work in progress, but I think their toughness, their versatility, and their defense is going to lead to some wins. Is that crazy?
I don't think it's crazy at all to think that they're going to be a much better team than they were last year. I've been saying I think that they're the 11th best team in the West, but when you're the 11th best team in the West, you only need a couple of the teams ahead of you to have some injuries or have some stuff not break well, and you're already starting to see that with Memphis, and you're starting to see Dallas has had some injury stuff, and I think it's a totally reasonable thing to suggest or predict that these guys could end up in maybe that 9-10 play-in spot. That's kind of where I think, assuming everything goes well for them, which obviously there's a lot that you're assuming there, but I think that's a reasonable place to really expect it to end up. I don't know if I'm comfortable going much higher than that, but I think this, they feel like the defense is legit. The big question is, what's the offense going to look like? Is Scoot going to take a leap? Is Shaden Sharp going to take a leap? Like, how much is Drew Holiday going to be able to, give on that end? Because they really still, for as much as I think it was absolutely the right move to move on from Anthony Simons and open that runway up for Scoot, they really don't have much else in the way of like reliable offensive the shot creation. So I'm curious to see who steps into that role. The offense is a big question, but with how good the defense is and how good their personnel is, on that end, I think they're certainly going to be right in the mix for one of those play-in spots. That's kind of where I see it.
All right, final question for you, Sean, as we get ready for Media Day coming up on Monday. Of all the crazy news that went down this summer, it's been very busy in Rip City. We got the acquisition of Drew Holiday. We got the surprise draft pick of Young Hansen. We got an owner named before the season began, which was pretty shocking. Damian Lillard is back in a Trailblazer uniform. Of all the different stories that went down, what was the most surprising to you?
I think the Dame thing is surprising just because I did not expect the Bucks to waive him with that much money left on his contract. Once he actually got waived and became a free agent, I thought, like, okay, there's a chance this might happen and he could come back because he's talked about wanting to, and it made sense. But I just did not think that that's just so much money for the Bucks to just eat and just wave and stretch over the next 5 years. We literally have never seen that before in NBA history. So that part was pretty shocking to me.
All right, you can read him at Rose Garden Report. He is the Trailblazers insider for us, 620 Rip City Radio. And he'll be all over Media Day coming up on Monday. Sean, basketball season's almost here. I'm looking forward to another year with you, my friend. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, good to talk to you as always, Chad.
You got it. There's Sean Hike, and we'll keep things rolling. We're going to preview the Ryder Cup. It's time for the Euros to go down. PGA David Coleman going to join me coming up at 5:20. I'm live here at Spirit Mountain Casino. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. right, if you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to you in just a moment. I'm still blown away at what we saw last night. Truly remarkable.
Fly ball to right field, number 60! A catcher has hit 60 home runs! Your MVP moment, Cal Raleigh! Swinging a drive deep to right field. There it is, number 60. The modern-day Bambino has just tied Babe Ruth's record of 60 home runs for third all-time in American League history. 59 in the first, number 60. The magical tour of Cal Raleigh just continues here in 2025.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Cal Raleigh is the man. And now he's got 60 home runs. The Mariners have clinched the division for the first time since 2001. And here's my question. How do you not give the MVP to Cal Raleigh? I understand the batting average and how his offensive numbers don't stack up to Aaron Judge, but I'm with Softy on this one. Just take a look at his OPS. And the way I define MVP is pretty simple, right? I look at a player and I think, how valuable is that guy to the team that he plays on? And I don't think you can measure the true value, the MVP worth of Cal Raleigh when it comes to the Mariners. I would give him the MVP. And I know the batting average, 247 or whatever it is, that it would be the lowest batting average for any MVP. But batting average doesn't mean what it used to mean. His home runs, and I think the fact that he got to 60 is incredible. Because now in the American League, it's Ruth, Maris, Judge, and Raleigh. Oh, jeez. Are you kidding me? So awesome. And I'll be up there on Sunday to check out the M's and Clayton Kershaw's last start in his career. Let's go out and talk with Pat, who wants to talk a little basketball. Pat, welcome to the show, my friend. What's on your mind?
Hey, go Mariners. Man, it's something that we've been looking for a long time as long-time Mariner fans. I started being a Mariner fan from the first game they played in Seattle, so this is exciting. But I'm here at home. It's exciting that we got the Trailblazers back and we're going to start a new season. It's like, man, I've been waiting for this drug, listening to the games every night that they're on. So my question is, you guys did a great job of talking about the starters potentially, but what do we have coming off the bench? Don't we still have one or two openings that the team still needs to fill on the 14th or 15th player? And I'm kind of wondering, how much do we have in real depth of players that can actually come in if someone gets hurt? I'm a little bit
Pat.
concerned.
No, it's okay. I'll address your question when we come back at the top. Don't forget, PJ Dave is going to preview the Ryder Cup when we come back. But one more time, take a listen to the crowd chanting MVP and then hear the roar of the crowd when Raleigh smashes that home run for number 60. I mean, if that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what will. It's simply amazing. All right, I'll address Pat's question when we come back. We'll preview the Ryder Cup at 5:20. I'm live here at Spirit Mountain Casino, your place to bet on college sports. Getting ready for Thursday Night Lights. You've got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up in 20 minutes, PGA David Coleman is going to join the show, and we'll get a chance to preview the Ryder Cup, which is coming up at Bethpage Black, and it's going to be awesome. I love the competition. The Europeans always seem to be better at this than the Americans, but I'm hoping with this year's squad they're going to be able to get over. So we'll do a full preview with PJ Dave and give you a breakdown. For a lot of you, maybe younger or newer golf fans, the Ryder Cup is something you're going to want to learn and get into because I believe outside of the Masters, I mean, ultimately it might be the best thing to watch in all of golf, even more so than the majors because of the team competition and the nationalism that's involved. You can tell it means a lot to the players on both sides. So I really like it. So we'll talk with PGA Dave. I did have a question before the break, and they were wanting to know in regard to the Trailblazers, like who are going to be some of the key bench guys, the depth guys. Well, the Blazers are going to have, depth. They've got versatility, which is nice. Your guards essentially are Scoot Henderson, Drew Holiday, and Shaden Sharp. Now, you can also throw in Caleb Love and Blake Wesley, but the good thing is one of those three, whether it's Holiday or it's Scoot or it's Sharp, you're going to have one of those guys coming in off the bench and will be one of the key rotation players. Now, elsewhere, don't forget about Matisse Thybulle, who can play a guard. He can play forward. Obviously a versatile defender, one of the better defenders in the league. He, too, is going to be a versatile force and will come off the bench and serve Chauncey Billups in a variety of ways. Now, at forward, you've got three guys, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, and Tamani Kamara. Two of those guys, I believe Avdia and Kamara will start, which means you'd have Jeremy Grant coming off the bench. And then at center, Young Hansen will get time behind Donovan Clingan. And then, of course, you've got Dwap Reef, who is a different type of center, more of a pick-and-pop type guy, but they'll be able to utilize him. Outside of that, other key guys to keep an eye on who could get time, Chris Murray, who's played a bunch over the last couple of years, obviously, and Ryan Rupert, with his length and defensive capability, also a versatile player for Chauncey Billups. Now, the one player that we don't really know much about is Robert Williams, Time Lord, and that's just because of the injuries. I mean, if healthy, Time Lord can play, but that's something that, you have to wait and see what happens. Now, I believe the starters are going to be, if you ask me, Scoot, Shaden, Denny, Tamani, and Donovan Clingan. That's your starting five, which means coming off the bench, you would have, obviously, Young Hansen, possibly Time Lord if he can be healthy, Robert Williams. And then your key guys to be able to back up would be Jeremy Grant and obviously Drew Holiday. And then they can mix in the other players as needed. Chris Murray will get time. The coaches trust him, that's for sure. And Dwap Reef in certain situations based on matchup with his pick-and-pop capabilities. So, the Blazers have depth. And they've got guys who can come in and play. The big question I think that most people have is with the loss of Anthony Simons, where is the bulk of the offense, especially the three-point shooting, going to come from? And we'll have to wait and see. That's where you hope that the internal development that they talk about, the team talks about a lot, that it shows up in terms of the work they put in throughout the course of the offseason and through camp to be able to come in and produce much, much more. So there you have it. All right, Rip City Drive, Chad doing live from Spirit Mountain Casino, getting ready for Thursday Night Lights. And I do appreciate your time. It's going to be a great sports weekend, kicking off tonight with the Seahawks and the Cardinals from Zona. And then tomorrow we got Big 12 action, ACC action, and then we go into Saturday with monster games, Oregon, Penn State, and Bama, Georgia. So a lot of great things going on. But I got to tell you what, being able to sit back and watch what took place last night with the Seattle Mariners and Cal Raleigh, it was one of those sports moments that gave me chills. Because when the crowd was starting to erupt and going absolutely bonkers for Cal Raleigh, I mean, that MVP chant was legendary. And he delivered right on time to get number 60. He had 2 home runs last night. The first one, number 59, he basically hit it all the way to Vancouver, Washington. And he just blasted it into the upper tank. It's just incredible. And then the crowd was chanting MVP, MVP when he stepped up later. It was amazing. Chills moment. Yeah, they knew. Everyone knew that was gone. It was gone. And I thought Riz did a pretty good job on the call as well. It's pretty solid.
Swinging a drive deep to right field. There it is, number 60. The modern-day Bambino has just tied Babe Ruth's record of 60 home runs for third all-time in American League history. 59 and the first number 60. The magical tour of Cal Raleigh just continues here in 2025.
Amazing. So the Mariners are in a great position right now. They got the Rockies coming up again tonight, and then they'll finish up with 3 at home against the LA Dodgers. But if you look at the standings right now, even though Seattle's clinched a playoff spot and the division, the first time since 2001, they're still in a great position to get the top spot in the American League. And if you take a look at the league standings, right now you've got Toronto and New York atop the AL with a record of 90 and 68, and the Mariners just 1 game back. 1 game back. So they still have a lot to play for with just 4 games to go. And if you can get into the top spot, that'd be pretty sweet. That would be awesome. So that's what we'll keep an eye on. So the Mariners going to finish up with 3 at home against the Dodgers. The Yankees will host the Orioles, and the Blue Jays will host the Rays. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But I would give the MVP to Cal, even though his numbers don't, match up outside of home runs with Aaron Judge. I'd do it. I don't know how you define MVP, but for me, I just look at a player, and you know it when you see it, the value that someone brings to the club. Because think about Cal. He, a couple of years ago, criticized the front office for not being aggressive and making maneuvers at the trade deadline to put them in a position to win. He wanted help. He knew the clubhouse needed help, and they didn't get it. And they ended up falling flat at the end of the season, and he was frustrated, and he voiced that. And then the manager, Scott Service, told him to pipe down. And a lot of people lost respect for Service when that went down. But then you fast forward to today, Raleigh re-signs the deal with the Mariners. They get aggressive at the deadline and bring in the help that's needed, and now they've got a chance to win a championship. So really, if you look at Raleigh over the last couple of years, his MVP worth to the team, I mean, it spans far outside of the diamond, for what he was able to do, the way he was able to speak up. And look, I'm not saying that the front office just caved because Cal Raleigh spoke up, but, when Raleigh speaks up, people listen, and that increases the pressure, and it put the Mariners in a position where they needed to do something at the deadline. They did, and it paid off, and you got to applaud them for that, right? For years and years, they mismanaged the team. There's no question about it. Just like the Chargers did with their coaching hires. They always went cheap. But when you get it right and you hire Jim Harbaugh and you get the results, they need to be, applauded for that. And the Mariners right now are as good as anyone in baseball. They absolutely can win a World Series because they've got the good starting pitching, the good defense, and they're getting timely hitting. And that's going to continue to be the key because you know how the playoff baseball works. You can't rely on the home run every night. Sometimes you're going to get in a pitching duel. You've got to be able to rely on your defense and your pitching. And then you need the big hit occasionally, different guys to step up and get it done. So I'm pretty pumped up. It's going to be fun to watch the playoffs because there's so many great stories. But Seattle right now, I think they have, I was just talking to somebody, I think they've got the second best odds to win it all right now. It's pretty remarkable if you think about it. And they're still are they the only team that hasn't been to a World Series in baseball? I mean, there's a lot of firsts and a lot of things that they could erase with a great postseason run. So we'll see where it shakes out. But last night was awesome. Cal Raleigh he's one of those guys, kind of got a man crush on him. I just like the way he handles himself. And he got emotional last night after the game. You can tell how much it means to him. But that was a great environment. The fans were geeked. And for the first time since 2001, the Mariners were able to win the division. And now once again have put themselves in a position to make a deep run. And playoff baseball, as we talked about yesterday, right? Every pitch, every hit, everything matters. Every mistake, everything is highlighted in the postseason. And then it usually will come down to which teams pitching staffs get hot. And, like, I look at the Dodgers right now. Starting pitching's pretty good. Their bullpen is a disaster. Like, what are they going to do when you can't rely on those guys? So we'll see. But, yeah, Mariners tonight, Rockies, and then tomorrow they'll kick off that 3-game set against the Dodgers. The game tonight, I lean Arizona, but they're pretty beat up. The loss of Connor, they got some injuries up front on the offensive line. So I'm anxious to see what that Seattle Seahawks defensive front can do against the Cardinals offense, because if the Cards are unable to run the football and they are in obvious pass situations, that's where the front for Seattle can get off and put them in a position. And I like the way the Hawks have played thus far. I like the way that Sam Darnold has played thus far. But these games on the short week are always tough. It usually favors the home team because they have less time to prepare. But on the flip side, if you're the better team, you might be able to put together a shortened work week and still come up with a game plan and be able to execute in a fashion that's going to put you in a position to win. So there you have it. One game in college football right now, East Carolina on top of Army by a score of 14-0. And then tomorrow there are multiple games which start at 4 o'clock. In fact, that good one, Florida State's going to be taking on Virginia. That's ESPN at 4. Seminoles are ranked 8th right now. They're a 6.5-point favorite. Houston is at Oregon State. The Cougs right now a 13.5-point road favorite. That game's going to be on ESPN at 7:30, and then Fox at 6. It's TCU at Arizona State, a good Big 12 matchup. And then tomorrow, the Oregon State pregame will kick off at 5:30 on your home of the Beavs, 1190 KEX. Your telephone number is 503-248-0620. You can reach out to me if you want. You can find me on social, on X, at Chad and Rip City. You can also listen live and podcast the show via our free iHeartRadio app. But when we come back, I'm going to be joined by PGA David Coleman. We'll talk to our good golf friend and get his take on the upcoming Ryder Cup, what the course is going to be like, what the play is going to be like, and what he expects. I appreciate your time today on this Thursday. I'm live from Spirit Mountain Casino. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Well, tomorrow the biennial 3-day team match golf competition between 12 golfers from the U.S. and 12 golfers from Europe will kick off the Ryder Cup from Bethpage back. And joining me right now to talk about it is our golf extraordinaire, PGA David Coleman. Hey, Dave, it's so great to have you back on the show. And I know for you and for me, the Ryder Cup is one of the best events, and I would argue it's the best event in golf to watch.
It's unbelievable, Chad, and I've got a history playing this golf course. I qualified for the New York State Open 20 years ago on this course. It's an unbelievable golf course to play, and definitely the toughest course I've ever played in a lot of respects, even tougher than Oakmont. It's so difficult, and it's set up so challenging, and, the biggest thing this week, the length is going to be huge, but I think your iron play has got to be so solid to score there. It's going to be fascinating to see how it tests the best players from both the U.S. and Europe.
All right, well, walk us through the golf course since you're quite familiar with it. What are the keys to having success at Bethpage Black?
Well, the one thing that they've done this week is they've trimmed the rough back, so the rough won't be as brutal as it normally is on a day-to-day basis, or what I saw 20 years ago in the New York State Open. But the biggest thing about this course is, if you can get it on the greens, you've got a chance. If you remember when Brooks Koepka won the PGA there 6 years ago, he hit the ball really well, tee to green, for about 3.5 days. The last day, the wheels came off a little bit, but he grinded out, to win it there at the end. And, the big thing is if you're driving it long, you're driving it straight, and your irons are good, the greens are not that difficult for a championship course, Chad, compared to, an Oakmont or an Augusta type course. So the greens are relatively fair. Obviously, it's a public golf course, too, so the greens can't be too crazy. There are some slopes there, but I really think, looking at the golf course and what I remember about it, and Tillinghast, the guy who designed it, a lot of his courses, the middle of the golf course is really the meat of the course. And, you look at 9, that big dogleg left, really tough hole there. Then, you look at 10 and 11, 2 holes that are really challenging. 10, if you remember back when they had the U.S. Open there when Tiger won, and then when Lucas Glover won several years ago, 10 was a really long hole that guys couldn't even hit the fairway on. So 10, that's just such a challenging hole. And then you look at 12. 12 is close to 500 yards, a little bit of a dog leg there. And then 13 is a par 5 that's basically a 3-shot hole. I think Tiger, when he won in 02, was able to get close there. But most guys, that's going to be a hole where you're probably going to have to be a really good wedge player, because you're going to have some kind of, maybe a yardage you don't normally have there. And then 15 is a hole we might see, somewhat this week. Obviously, in match play, you can close guys out. But 15, they've extended quite a bit. That hole, when I played it, was probably somewhere around 475 or 480. And now I want to say they've moved it back probably almost close to 490 or 500. And then 16 is, I think 16, it's downhill, but it's going to play well over 500 yards for a par 4. So there's some real holes like the middle towards the back half of the golf course where, obviously with modern technology, they had to move things back, but it just sets up for a bomber. So a guy like Rory is going to have a big advantage. Any of these guys who can really hit it a long way in the air have a great chance to really do well this week. It's going to be interesting without rough, though, because normally you're used to seeing the rough be deep there at the PGA or the Open. Now we're going to see guys maybe take some more risks because it is match play as well.
We're talking with PJ Dave as we get ready for the Ryder Cup, which launches tomorrow. So explain this to me, PJ Dave. The Europeans have taken 8 of the last 11 Ryder Cups. Why is it the Europeans have much more success in this event than the Americans?
I think a couple things, Chad. I think number one, Paul McGinley was talking about it today on the Golf Channel. Is a lot of one of the formats, alternate shot. They play that a lot in Europe. So that's a format we don't play a lot here in the U.S. And I don't know if you've ever played alternate shot. I know you're a really avid golfer. Your game has come a long way, man. You're playing some great golf. But alternate shot, sometimes I've played it in tournaments, it's friggin' hard to play, man. It's really hard. So imagine you and I are playing, and, you hit your drive somewhere, and I got to play it from that spot. And then maybe you're teeing off on the odd holes, I'm teeing off on the even holes. That's a hard format to play. They play that a lot in Europe. They play that like at some of these big-name courses that have the British Open over in Europe. a place like Muirfield or Carnoustie, St. Andrews. So these guys get used to playing this from the time they're young, so that's a big part of it. I think the team golf is massive for them. The other thing, too, I think the Europeans do really well is they play this underdog role really, really well. You hear all these stories in the media, like, you're going to hear probably about how Rory's parents sacrificed so much for him. John Rahm has a club foot. You're going to hear about Rob McIntyre, how his dad got up at 2 or 3 in the morning to cut the greens at this course in Scotland for his son to chase his dream of playing professional golf. A guy like Ludwig Aberg or Hovland grew up, way up in the Nordic country, where they basically had probably a 4 or 5 month golf season. Then, you heard back in the day, guys like Seve and Bernhard Langer and Nick Faldo turned pro when they were teenagers, back when there was no such thing as NIL and there were no endorsements like there are now. These guys put it all on the line. Ian Poulter, another guy who came from working as an assistant pro and was like a 4 handicap when he turned pro. So these guys, they play up these underdog roles and where they came from. And I actually think Keegan Bradley has done that really well in his story now with the U.S., and I think that might work in the U.S.'s favor. So I think Keegan has learned some of that over the years, and I think you got to take some of that mindset, because if you come in kind of arrogant and cocky, like we saw with Luke Donald with the comments he made about the money that the U.S. team is getting, it can really hurt you, I think.
No question about it. I'm really excited to see the Americans play. I like the team they've put together. They're favored to win the Cup this year. I'm excited to watch J.J. Spawn, who's had a great season, and, of course, my guy Bryson DeChambeau. But give me a couple of guys that you think are going to be critical for the Americans to have success.
Yeah, I think Cameron Young, man. I think so. It's interesting. Cameron Young's dad, retired club pro in the New York City area. He was at a course in the Hudson Valley called Sleepy Hollow. A legendary club pro, really good player himself. His mom was a really good player. I think his mom might have had a cup of coffee playing professionally, too, like on one of the ladies' tours. She was a really good player, too. And, there was a picture today on the Golf Channel this morning. Cameron Young went to the 2002 U.S. Open, the one Tiger won. He was there with his dad. So that was really cool. He grew up playing a lot of metropolitan section events around there as an amateur before he went off to Wake Forest. He won the New York State Open there as an amateur in 2017. So he's got a little inside knowledge of how to play this golf course. And the other thing, too, Chad, he's a long hitter, man. And the other thing I like about his game is he's only worked with his dad his whole life. He's not jumping around to different coaches, not
like Tiger
too much. He's always kind of great point. Exactly. So he's always had one coach. So I think he's got a great chance to play well this week. The other guy that I think we're looking for big things from this week is Russell Henley. Russell Henley, he played with Scotty at the President's Cup in Montreal last year, and they paired him with Scotty tomorrow morning. In the team matches in the morning. So I think there's no doubt Russell Henley's 36. That's kind of old these days in golf terms, if you can believe that. He's, kind of an old rookie. But if you look at Russell Henley's resume, Chad, I mean, he's got a really good record in the majors the last few years. He's really played very, very well, on golf courses that are tough. Obviously, at Bay Hill, he won. So, he's the kind of guy that's done great, in tough situations. So I think that's good for him playing with Scotty. He's kind of a level-headed guy, and he has a very quiet, stable mind. I think he's going to play really well this week in front of those raucous crowds.
That's pretty awesome. The other thing, too, you were talking about, Cam Young. He used to really struggle with the putter, but he's come a long ways in that department, which is nice to see. That could come in handy this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, you look at, the way, he started to putt and, especially big moments, too. I mean, that was what helped him at Greensboro. Obviously, when he won that event, he made a lot of putts on the weekend, and then he blew away the field on Sunday. I think Keegan Bradley saw that performance and said, hey, this is definitely a guy that we need on this team. And he's a young guy. I think you want to get young guys experience. I mean, obviously, you need your veterans, you need your stalwarts, but you got to take chances on younger guys. We've seen both sides of, the European team and the American team. they've rolled the dice on younger guys, and it's paid off in the past.
Well, so do you expect the Americans to keep the proper mindset and with their talent go out there and take the cup this year?
Yeah, I think they've got a really good chance, Chad. I think, the one thing that Keegan Bradley has done is I think he set the golf course up, in favor of the American team. Plus, I think they've shortened some of the holes, too, where they're going to be hitting shorter irons into these greens, and I think that favors the American team. The European team has some guys that are really good long iron players. Obviously, we know how good Rahm is with the long irons. Rory is incredible with the long irons. Hovland is probably one of the best long iron players in the game. Bob McIntyre, a guy who is not the longest hitter out there on the tour, has had to play with long irons a lot. So he's definitely a guy, who's definitely had to hit a lot of long irons over his career. So these are guys that are used to playing, 4, 5, 6 irons into greens. And if you take that advantage away from them, that's where, I think the Americans could have an advantage. Like 17, that par 3 where they played it in the PGA, the U.S. Open, they've moved it up this week because obviously the grandstands, and probably that's something that Keegan Bradley worked with the PGA of America to give his team somewhat of a strategy advantage there. So there's no doubt that I think that could definitely play a huge role.
All right, one final question for you. For those who are new to golf or may not be familiar with the Ryder Cup, what is the best way to watch it? What are the things that they should pay attention to as they get familiar with the format?
Yeah, I think, the big thing you want to watch is obviously, the alternate shot format. That's an interesting format because you got certain guys teeing off on the even holes, certain guys teeing off on the odd holes in alternate shot. Then best ball is more like your traditional golf where everyone's going to play, their own golf ball, but obviously take the best score. So that's obviously that you're going to have to make a lot of birdies in that type format. That's where you're probably going to have to shoot, probably 5, 6 under minimum to have a chance, to win a match, especially with not a lot of rough at Bethpage this week. And then singles on Sunday, everybody plays. I mean, all 12 guys play. It's head-to-head. That's always fun because, you never know who's going to play each other. Hopefully we get Bryson against Rory in one of the matches, or maybe Rory against Scotty, or Rahm against Bryson. We get some kind of big-name matchup there, and let's hope it's close, man. I think that's what we all want. We want it to be close. Obviously this time of year we're all locked into football, but this is a huge tournament in the shadow of New York City on a municipal course that anybody can go play. I mean, it's reasonable to play compared to, say, like a Pebble Beach or some other courses around the country that are public or resort courses. To play Bethpage Black, it's a pretty reasonable rate, whether you're a New York State resident or you're out of state. It's not bad to pay the money. I mean, you just have to figure out a way to get on there, probably sleep in your car because it's a first come, first serve thing. But, it's a hell of a place, man. And just I remember my experience from being there, Chad. It's almost more like a country club the way it's set up. You would never think it's a municipal golf course. It's kind of thing where, it's definitely more set up to being, like a country club with how nice the facilities are. The other golf courses, too, this week will probably be the practice facilities for both teams. So that's a really cool experience. And people are going to probably say, hey, watching this, people who played that course, they'll recognize a lot of the holes, too. So that really makes it special for the average fan, I think.
All right, PJ David Coleman, I love you, my friend. Enjoy the Ryder Cup, and then I look forward to doing a little recap with you next week.
Yeah, Monday will be great, man. It'll be a lot of fun to talk about it. Hopefully the U.S. can bring it home, but it's going to be a real challenge. That European team is absolutely loaded, and I think, the Americans, these younger guys, the Ben Griffins, Cam Youngs, J.J. Spawn, Harris Inglis, these unheralded guys, obviously they're great players, but they got to outplay the stalwarts and the veteran guys from Europe, because all these European guys, except Højgaard, were on the last team in Rome a couple years ago. So this is going to be really fascinating to watch, man.
All right, dude. No one does it like you, PJ Dave. Enjoy the tournament. We'll talk soon.
Thanks again, Chad. Yep, have a good night, buddy.
There you go. There's PJ David Coleman. Love him. And I'm looking forward to the Americans, as Scotty Bethune just put it, turning the Euros into a prison movie. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think the Americans are going to win the Cup, and they're going to really drop the hammer on them this year, which is great. I mean, the Americans have got a loaded squad. They're heavy favorites, and I expect them to get the job done. In other news, Shohei Ohtani hit his 54th home run. The Dodgers clinched the NL West. I saw this meme floating around. When you get an A on the group project and didn't do jack. And it's a picture of Michael Conforto in the locker room celebrating with his teammates. And Conforto's been terrible this year. And the Dodgers are about to go down in flames because their bullpen is a hot mess. So there you have it. Ryder Cup's going to be great. Big thanks to PGA Dave. Love breaking that down. The Mariners going to get things going at 6:40 tonight. Their final meeting with the Rockies before they take on the Dodgers Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the Mariners still competing for the top spot in the American League. One game back and behind the Blue Jays and the Yankees. Right now the Hawks and the Cardinals scoreless down in Zona right now. Kyler Murray threw an interception, but the Cards were able to poke it out and recover a fumble, and so they've got the football with about 7 minutes, 35 seconds to go in that first quarter. So right now it's looking like it could be a bit of a defensive struggle. Cardinals are beat up by injuries. The Seahawks struggled a bit in the secondary so far this year, but they've been terrific up front on their defensive front. And, of course, the Cards trying to overcome the loss of their running back Connor, who's now done for the year. And I read this report, John Mateer, the quarterback at Oklahoma, apparently the procedure on his hand was a success. He's probably going to miss about a month. So Mateer had completed 67% of his passes, over 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's also the Sooners' leading rusher with 5 additional touchdowns on the ground. He ranks second nationally with 351.3 yards per game in total offense. And now somehow the Sooners are going to have to try and replace that. Fortunately for them, they got a bye, and then they take on Kent State October 4th, a week ahead of the game against Texas. And Michael Hawkins Jr. is going to be the starter for that game against Kent State. He'll be the starter until Mateer comes back. But the problem is after they play Kent State on October 4th, they have 6 straight SEC opponents, 5 of which right now are ranked. So they get Texas on October 11th. After a trip to South Carolina, the Sooners will close out against Ole Miss, Tennessee, Bama, Missouri, and LSU. I mean, that is an absolute brutal stretch. Brutal. And that's the nature of college football. But I love the games this weekend. I can't wait for Oregon and Penn State. The majority of people I have talked to like Oregon plus the 3.5. Bama, Georgia will be very interesting. USC playing an early kick time in Illinois as a 7-point road favorite. It's very interesting. You know, can they continue the type of success we've seen with that balance on offense? All right, we'll keep things rolling. I'm live here at Spirit Mountain Casino getting ready for Thursday Night Lights, watching a little football and chilling right now. I appreciate your time. Don't forget the Rip City Drive is back tomorrow at 3 o'clock on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, the Cardinals are on top of the Seahawks by a score of 3-0. But the Hawks now are threatening in scoring position. We'll see if they can take a lead. They're still in the first quarter down in Arizona. One college football game tonight, East Carolina and Army. And right now, East Carolina on top by a score of 21-0. And other than that, just a lot of baseball games going on around me with all these great races, especially with Cleveland and Detroit. Mariners and Rockies, first pitch coming up at 6:40, and then tomorrow we will really start to get things rolling with this wild and wacky college football weekend, which is going to be terrific. I mean, there's so many things going on in sports right now. The NFL games are great. The Seahawks have just scored. The college football games this weekend are great. We got the Ryder Cup going, and then we've got all of these teams jockeying for position in Major League Baseball. So as a sports fan, I just don't really know what else you could want right now. It's going to be terrific. Once again, let me remind you of what I'm looking for this weekend in college football. Well, let me start with the NFL because there's multiple games that I'm going to be eyeing this weekend, as I'm sure you are as well. And the Seahawks now on top by a score of 7-3 over the Cardinals. Vikings at the Steelers. This is going to be played over in Dublin, Ireland. And I lean Vikings in this game. The Steelers are 2-1, Vikings 2-1. But Pittsburgh, I'm still waiting for them to kind of get on track with their offense. I think you can probably pencil them in with Mike Tomlin, 9 to 10 wins. And with the injury to Joe Burrow, they've definitely got a good chance to compete in that division. Baltimore's down right now, but the Steelers are in a good position. But I give a slight edge to the Vikings. And I want to see if Carson Wentz can have a follow-up performance to what we saw last week when it was dynamic. The Commanders and Falcons, it's going to be a tough game. I lean Atlanta in this one. I think Washington's about a 1-point favorite. The problem is we really don't know about the health of Jaden Daniels. And so you have to keep an eye on the injury report and see his availability and if he's going to be able to go. And the question is, if he does go, how effective is he going to be? And then with Michael Penix Jr., he'll probably have an opportunity to play better at home, but I haven't liked what I've seen so far from him. He hasn't looked comfortable delivering the football. So we'll see if he can bounce back. The Saints at the Bills. I think the Bills are a monster favorite. It's around 16. I like Buffalo in this game, obviously. The Saints are one of the worst teams in football, maybe the worst. And Buffalo's offense is high-powered right now. They got some issues on defense, but Buffalo, one of the true contenders in the NFL, and Josh Allen playing like you would expect, an MVP level, which is awesome. Browns at the Lions. I think Detroit's going to run away with that one. They're about a 10-point favorite, but the Browns having to play on the road, I just don't think they have the firepower to be able to keep up with Detroit. And that they're steamrolling right now. Big win at Baltimore, big win over Chicago, on the turf at home. I think they're going to run away with that one. And just really impressed with the overall operation of Detroit. I thought they might take a step back this year with the loss of two coordinators who are now head coaches. And that first game in Green Bay was rough, but after that they responded nicely. But, man, they do such a great job of controlling the line of scrimmage, running the football, and putting Goff in a position to utilize his abilities through play action and the accuracy from the pocket. That's what was so fun about that Monday Night Football game. You got Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson, two terrific quarterbacks who do it in two totally different styles. And Jared Goff's the old throwback. He's a stand in the pocket and deliver the football on time and on target type of guy. He's not going to run away from anyone. He's not going to scramble around, but he understands the offense and how to run it, and then he's got the precision with the passing. And he's very smart. Panthers at the Patriots. This is going to be another rough watch. I lean New England in that game. The Panthers coming off their first win, a big win of the season. And we'll see if New England, they're still trying to piece things together with Mike Vrabel as head coach. He's got a lot of work to do as he continues to lay the foundation. But they made the right call on hiring Vrabel. It's just a matter of time. And they've got to continue to work with Drake May to get him up to the level that he's probably capable of. I like the Chargers over the Giants. I think they're about a 6.5-point favorite. The real issue here is Jackson Dart. I'm excited for him to get his first start in the NFL. He's taking over for Russell Wilson. Brian Daboll's a big believer. Alex Brink's a big believer. He's got a great skill set. The challenge for him is that in his first start, he's having to take on one of the best lockdown defenses in the NFL right now. The Chargers have been physical. Their secondary's been terrific. And I like the way they're playing right now. So give me the Chargers over the Giants. I like the Buccaneers to upset the Eagles down in Tampa. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. And I just know that this is a tough spot for the Eagles. They never play well in Tampa. And I like the confidence that Baker Mayfield and that crew's playing with right now. Now, Tampa, they may get Godwin back. They've got some injury at receiver. But one thing Baker has shown during his time in Tampa is that he's willing to spread the football around and let other guys make plays, which is terrific. Titans and Texans, unwatchable football game. Texans can't move the football. They can't throw the football. They can't block at the line of scrimmage for C.J. Stroud. And the Titans are just a mess. Ineptitude on the sideline with their head coach and a rookie quarterback. It's a bad combination. In one upset, Colts have been on fire, playing well at 3-0. They're going to be in L.A. to take on the Rams. I like the Rams in that game. I think this will be the first loss for Indianapolis, but I give them props. I was really clowning on them before the year, but they've been terrific thus far, one of the best teams in football. But I think this is a good spot for the Rams coming off that heartbreak loss on the blocked field goal, which was returned for a touchdown against the Eagles. I'll take the 49ers over the Jags. Mac Jones probably will start. We might see Brock Purdy, but in any event, I like the 49ers to get a win at home. It's hard to believe it, but San Francisco is 3-0, and they haven't played anywhere near their best football. The Ravens are at the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs at home. As a dog, I think they'll beat the Ravens, and I think Baltimore is going to fall to 1-3, which is remarkable considering the talent that they have. But the problem right now is they have a lot of issues on defense. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. And until they, tighten things up defensively, they're going to continue to have some issues. And for Kansas City, their defense play great, but they can't move the football with consistency. It took everything they had to hold on to beat the Giants last week. But I think Kansas City at home, taking on a team in the Ravens who are struggling on defense, it could be just what Patrick Mahomes needs to be able to get that offense going. I like the Raiders over the Bears in Las Vegas, who is now favored. That's switched. Las Vegas now 1.5-point favorite. I like the Raiders to top the Bears. And I think the Packers probably beat Dallas, but I think that's going to be a close game. Probably about a field goal game. Dak Prescott is an underdog at home, typically plays well. He's very dynamic. So I think that's going to be a very, very good football game. The Packers coming off their first loss last week in Cleveland. The two Monday night football games, Jets and Dolphins, unwatchable. Two bad football teams. The Dolphins, one of the worst, and the Jets, one of the worst as well. Both teams sit at 0-3. And then the other game, the second part of the doubleheader, Bengals at the Broncos. No Joe Burrow. Denver will get the win, but not the most watchable game. Both games on Monday night are kind of, I could do without it. All right, that's going to do it for me. Big thanks to all of you.